Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to the virtual Norwich Bookstore. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Sam. I'm one of the co-owners of the Norwich Bookstore, and I am so glad to welcome you from wherever you're tuning in tonight, and to welcome two authors that I'm very, very excited to host. Tonight, we have Gigi Morales talking about her new book, Bright Star, and she's joined by Reyna Grande. We are so happy to have both of them. I am just delighted that we were able to schedule an event with Gigi. So please join me in welcoming her. Before we get started, I have just a couple of announcements to make. First of all, of course, we are here to celebrate a book tonight, a new book. That book is Bright Star. It is the beautiful new children's book from Yuyi Morales. It is gorgeously illustrated. It tells an empowering and beautiful tale. And if you haven't picked up your copy already, I know some of you did today, but if you haven't picked up a copy yet, you can do so at the Norwich Bookstore. We're located on Main Street in Norwich, Vermont. If you are not in the Norwich area, you can certainly order online from us. I will post links in the chat, and you can order online, and we will ship anywhere in the country for you via USPS Media Mail or another option of your choice. You can also do contactless porch pickup if you're here in the area, but would prefer not to come into the store. And we are so grateful for your continued support. That's what allows us to keep doing what we're doing. It allows us to keep having events like this, and it allows authors and illustrators to keep writing books and creating art. And so we're so grateful to you for your support. I'm also grateful tonight to the support of a couple of the public libraries in the area. So huge shout out to our friends at the Norwich Public Library who have helped get the word out about this event, and to our friends and partners at the Fairleigh Public Library, and also to some other Upper Valley libraries who I've seen talking about this event. Thank you so much, and I hope some of you are here tonight joining us. I saw one library posting on social media that they had been reading some of Gigi's books in their Spanish classes, which is so exciting to see, and a lot of fun. They're great books to read aloud, as I think we'll discover momentarily here. So thank you to the public libraries. If you are here in the Upper Valley of Vermont, New Hampshire, I hope you patronize your local library, whichever that may be, and they are just such wonderful partners to us. So thank you to all of them. We have many other events happening throughout the fall at the Norwich Bookstore. We're mostly virtual this year. You can check out our website, norwichbookstore.com, where you will also find other events that we've got coming up over the next few weeks and months. Many of our events are free and open to the public, and we are really grateful whenever you join us at those. So thank you so much, and I hope we'll see you back. And now, without further ado, I am so excited to welcome our two guests this evening. Yuyi Morales and Reyna Grande are here, and we are lucky to have them. Born in Jalapa, Mexico, where she currently resides and where she joins us from tonight, Yuyi Morales has won the prestigious Cura Belpre Award for illustration 6 times. Those are for Just a Minute, a Trickster Tale and Counting book, Los Gatos Black on Halloween, Just in Case, a Trickster Tale and Spanish alphabet book, Nino Wrestles the World, which is one of my personal favorites, Viva Frida, which is a Caldecott honor book, and Dreamers, which was a New York Times best illustrated book and also a New York Times bestseller. Her new children's book is Bright Star. It is this beautiful book right here. It tells a story about growth, empowerment, and finding one's own voice. And joining Gigi tonight in conversation is Reyna Grande. She's an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and writing teacher. As a girl, she crossed the US-Mexico border to join her family in Los Angeles, a harrowing journey chronicled in The Distance Between Us, a National Book Critics Circle Award finalist. Her other books include the novels Across 100 Mountains and Dancing with Butterflies, and 2 memoirs, the additional memoirs, the young readers edition of The Distance Between Us, and A Dream Called Home. She joins us tonight from Woodland, California, where she lives with her husband and 2 children. Please, from wherever you are tonight, join me in welcoming Reyna Grande and Yuyi Morales. Thank you.
Hola, Reyna.
Hola, Yuyi.
You have no idea like how excited I am to be talking to you, to have this conversation. So this chance to, even though we are going to have it in English.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to have a conversation with you because I have a lot of questions. So that means I get to ask my questions.
Okay. Awesome.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate that you took time of your busy schedule, especially on a Friday night, to come and join us. So thank you so much. Yeah, so Gigi, I'm really impressed with the work that you're producing because it just amazes me how productive you are and how like I always feel like, oh, when your book comes out and it's just really beautiful, and I'm all like, this is Gigi's best work, and then the next year you have another book come out, more like, oh my god, it's even better than the other one. Okay, like how do you do it? It's just amazing to me how like it's just
Wow.
one after another, just wonderful books that you create. And
Thank you. I think that, and I'm sure that you will relate to what I'm going to say, which is that every book is more of a journey than anything else. It never feels to me like I'm making a book. It feels to me like I'm living something. Something is happening in my life that then is processed through making a book. And then I end up making books that have to do with me having questions and trying to answer those questions. And it is a case for Bright Star, as it has been the case for other books. But in the case of Bright Star, it started precisely with a lot of questions. I was traveling the country. I was reading my book Dreamers, which is about immigration, about the identity of us as immigrants. And it was my way of celebrating having this voice that, and the permission that I gave myself to tell my own story rather than having someone else telling who we immigrants are. And I was celebrating that when I came to the United States, a lot of people reached out and extended their hand to me so I could be welcome in a country like the United States. And then as I was celebrating that book, we all saw it, what was happening at the border, which is not new. But then we were seeing caravans of people trying to enter the United States. We were seeing children in detention. We were seeing families separated. And more than anything, I recognize that there is a lot of pain going on in the at the border because of the immigration policies, and I have no idea how to cope with that. And especially when I will think about what will you tell a child. Us as authors have that opportunity to tell children something about themselves, to kind of let them know that they are going to be okay after all, that hope is at the end of the journey, that things are going to turn out okay. But I really didn't know how could I, with a straight face, tell a child that has gone through terrible things that they should not be through, like being separated from their families or being rejected from entering to the United States. I will never know how to tell that child that he or she is going to be wholesome again someday, that they are going to be able to repair any damage that has been done to them. I just didn't know how. And making Bright Star was kind of my way of looking for those answers, or for an answer. At the beginning, I thought, oh, maybe I will find something that will help me figure out how I continue making my work for children, where I am able to relate to their pain and the things that they are going through, and accompany them. And the only way I knew how to do that was by making a book and trying to see what came out of it.
Yeah, no, that's a really great answer, and I like what you said about how for you, like beginning a book really starts with all the questions that you have, right? Yeah, so do you want to read the book to us so that we can hear the story?
Sure, let's read it. I brought some of my friends. I always bring my friends. They can do the story with us. I brought my jaguar. Because there is a jaguar in the story, and I'm gonna put my jaguar here and see if people there who will be also following the story along, if they can find a jaguar in the illustrations. I also brought my snake. And there is also a snake in the illustrations of Bright Star. So see if you can find them. And then later we can also talk, if you want, about what they mean for me and what they mean in the story. So we are gonna read Bright Star. And I always like to take the jacket off so we can read it a little easier. So this is Bright Star by su servidora Yuyi Morales, and also I can show you the inside of the cover. And here we go. Starts like this. Bright Star by Yuyi Morales. Child, you are awake. Breathe in, then breathe out. Hermosa criatura. You are alive. You are a bright star inside our hearts. You're gonna hear a lot of noise outside. I'm very close to the street. Mira, some things you can see, others you must find. There are a lot of animals here and plants that you can see because they are kind of big, but there are also some that are not as easy to find. So you search, you are ready, cosita pequeña. Let's go. Vámonos. And here is this little deer. I call her Venadita, like we will call her in Español. And she's jumping to join her mother in their journey. Oh no, what is that? Look and listen. Be alert. Te amo, corazoncito tembloroso. And for people who might not know, te amo is how we say in Spanish, I love you. Breathe in, despacito. Then gently breathe out, lie low. We want you safe. No matter where you are a bright star inside our hearts. And maybe you can see, you can find the little Venadita who is hiding. And if you feel afraid and you begin to hurt inside, let it out, shout it loud. Let the world know what you feel. No. And in this scene, there are these broken cactuses and saguaros and all these animals, because there is something here that should not be. The earth murmurs your story. We are here to protect you. You are not alone. Listen. And I always imagine, like, if we could listen at this moment, will we hear the wind carrying a feather, or the rain falling down, or the coming out of a moth from its cocoon, or the flapping of the wings of the bats that just came out, which are all mama bats. They are either about to have their babies or carrying their babies with them.
Hmm.
Sometimes silence tells you secrets. And you imagine a new story. You imagine the most beautiful world. You are a bright star inside our hearts. And if you look closely, you might be able to recognize what animals those children represent. Whether they are because of the colors of and the patterns on her blouse or the prints on their clothes, the embroidery in her blouse. See if you can catch what animals they might be. And aquí in Mexico, we always, when we finish a story, we always say, y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado. And that's the end of the reading of our story.
Oh, thank you. That was really beautiful.
Thank you, Reyna.
Yeah, I was really impressed. First of all, as somebody who writes 400-page books, 150,000 words for this book. I was so impressed by how you managed to like create this like very profound and deep story with like how many words? Like 50 words, 60 words?
Probably.
Maybe? Like, yeah, I was just really impressed by that, you know, because people think that writing a short book is easy because it's short, but I think it's really hard to write a short book with such few words because every word needs to be very carefully selected.
Exactly.
And it needs to say a lot, right? In
Yes.
a little. So so what was your process of coming up with what the words were going to be to go with these images?
Yeah, there were like many places that kind of like came together to help me, because at the beginning I was lost. What I knew was that I wanted to create something that, like a book or a story, that will accompany children when they needed it the most. And I hear a song that says something like, corre, corre, venadita, corre, corre, venadita. And it's about this deer that is running to go towards the mountain. But at the moment when I hear it, a lot of things were happening with children, and I was thinking like, there are a lot of adults that will tell that to their children, to their benaditas and benaditos. They will tell them, run, run. You know, this is a moment where we need to either hide, like we want you safe. That song really spoke to me, even though maybe it wasn't about children being in trouble, but I was thinking about how having something that I could sing to children will have that energy that I wanted. So I started creating something that felt like a song to me. So when I started writing it, I wrote it in my journal. I have like rolls of paper here that I will just open, and I will start writing verses or ideas or words. They were very short. It will be 1 or 2 words, and sometimes I will make a drawing. And I had that feeling, I want to make something that is like a song. But the other thing that I also knew, even though I didn't know much more than that, was that I wanted it to be like a blanket. We were seeing all these children who were in detention, and they were being given blankets, the astronaut blankets, all shiny and like metallic. And I was thinking, if a child is all by her own, she's all by herself alone, not even having the embrace of someone who loves them, and then the only thing that they have is this blanket. I just wanted to make something that will be like that, like a blanket, like a handmade blanket that will embrace them, will keep them warm and feel them, make them feel safe somehow. So, and that's why I ended up making, actually I have it here. I ended up making this whip, like I whip this little blanket, and that's what I use for the end papers. So then if they will be like these arms reaching out and just embracing the story as they could embrace children. And I tried many different approaches to the story, but I always knew that I wanted to make it about a white-tailed deer. And I started researching about them, about animals, about what also humans go through in the borderlands. And every time I research, I just found more and more about it, and understanding that it is not only humans the ones that got hurt and stopped, or at least try to stop them at the border, but animals are also the ones that get their corridors and the places where they always find their way to get the things that they need to survive, that those places are being either destroyed or blocked so that animals cannot cross freely anymore. And I wrote the story with a lot of trepidations. Like most of the time I wouldn't know what will happen next, because also as I approached the end of the story, I didn't know how to end it without making false promises, without telling children like, oh yes, at the end, the little deer is gonna find her mother. She's gonna be okay, and they are gonna go along together. It was difficult making, especially the end. And so as I was writing, I will write some, then I will make some illustrations. I will revise the text, and will go back and write again and make some illustrations. So especially towards the end, everything was very whipped together. Everything was happening kind of like taking turns or almost at the same time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really liked, I felt that you did a really good job capturing the setting as well. And the book, the novel I just finished writing, Ballad of Love and Glory, is the first part of the book takes place in what is now South Texas. So the borderlands that you're writing about. And I spent hours and hours and hours researching like the flora and the fauna there.
Yeah.
So when I saw your book, like I knew exactly, like I suddenly had the image of, oh, this is what it looks like. And I recognized like the white-tailed, deers and the rattlesnakes and the jaguar, and then all the cactus that you put in there. Like I just felt it was so authentic, and that you captured that setting so well. Did you like take a trip up there to the borderlands, or how did you research it? How did you get it?
Yeah. Well, my only previous experience with the borderlands was when I crossed from Mexico into the United States myself, and that was a short trip. And I saw Ciudad Juarez and I saw El Paso, Texas, but that was it. And so then I asked for help, and I had Sergio Avila, who is now my friend, who is his biologist, who is very committed to the protection of the borderlands. He took me there, and he was my guide, and he showed me the place, he showed me around. By the time I had already done a lot of research, but it was all through books and talking to desert experts here in Mexico City. I went to UNAM, La Universidad University, and I talked to some academics there some researchers who had been working also at the desert years before. And then they little by little, they will connect me to other people until I actually made it. I went there and I got to see the places, but I also got to talk to people. I got to go to migrant shelter, but I also went to camping out, where a lot of people got together to talk about their own efforts and their own work of making sure that a border wall was not built in the borderlands. And these are everybody from families who had been living there for generations to really young people who are going to Washington, D.C. and are going to Congress to make sure that they are letting them know what the destruction that all of these policies and especially walls are causing in the environment. And like when I was telling you about the snake and the jaguars, not only the snakes and jaguars are some of those animals who are being stopped when border devices are put in borderlands. Not only they are being greatly affected, and the United States is losing their jaguar population rapidly. It's almost extinct because they cannot cross into the United States. They are coming from Mexico. But also for me in the book, they also represent the energy, the power and the spirit that all these people who are working to make sure that no one, including children, animals, plants, and the environment are being hurt by walls that are being built. I feel that they are like jaguars and snakes. They have that strength because it's what propels them and makes them do what they need to do in order to protect these places, the border.
Yeah. No, and I think I'm so impressed by all the research that you did. Like even things that didn't quite make it into the book, like they're still there that that you thought about and that you really that influence how you wrote the book. But I noticed that you used a lot of Spanish in this book, even though the book is available also in Spanish.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, what was your motivation for making sure that you included Spanish words in the English version?
If I look back to even the very beginning of my work, even my first books are made with Spanish words as well. And I feel more and more, I feel very strong of including the Spanish in my books. First, because it's a language that I love, but also because equality is very important to me. And maybe that's a way for me to make sure that we give the same love and respect to saying things in Spanish as much as we do it when we say things in English. I want to be heard also when I speak Spanish, not only when I speak English. And so because I love Spanish, I always want to include it there. And I believe, Reyna, that Spanish and English are not, they don't have to exclude each other. In fact, like when we put them together, they become even a stronger tool for us to communicate things. And also to really give a place to Spanish, because so much, in so many ways, we have been told that if we speak Spanish, if we write in Spanish, we are not going to be heard. People is not going to pay attention to our stories. And I don't believe that. And if if that's true, I don't want that true. I want our reality to be different, and I want to be, as my stories, I want them to be even more valuable because they include both languages, and so I always insist to put them there, and also because I love how they sound and what they do to us. When we put words in Spanish, they are not just random words in Spanish, they are something that I really feel like if you tell a child, corazoncito tembloroso, cosita pequeña, those ways of calling children for me are like much from my heart. Why not tell them with words that I really love, which are words in Spanish as well, you know, as well.
So does the Spanish translation have English words in them?
No, they are only in Spanish. And in my case with the books, I am not making the translation. Somebody else is making them, even though my Spanish is much better than my English. But these are experts. They are translators, and they know how to do their job much better than I will do it, the translation. And I just love it that it is also a tool for children to read the stories in a language that they might be very, very familiar with. So no, they don't have words in English. For that, well, we have the English version.
Okay. And so you moved back to Mexico how many years ago?
7 years ago already. Yeah.
And how, like, do you feel what was it strange for you to go back to Mexico after being here for many years? Like, what was that transition?
Yes, well, I was in the United States for 20 years, and
I ask because I fantasize sometimes of going back to Mexico, so I want to know what it's like.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to come back to Mexico. I mean, rather than having to come back to Mexico, I always felt like Mexico was my place, because like if you are familiar with dreamers, you know that I arrived to the United States kind of unwillingly, and then I became an immigrant in ways that I had not anticipated. I just didn't know I was going to come and live in the United States.
How old were you when you came to the US?
I was 25.
20. Okay, so you were an adult, because I was 9. So yes. I have a completely different experience.
You wanted to come to the United States because you wanted to be with your parents, right?
Yes.
Your entire family. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I had a new baby. My son was 2 months old when I came to the United States. And I always thought that I was going to visit. I never thought that I was going to stay. So when I ended up staying because of the immigration, how I was gonna keep my visa and everything, I ended up staying, but my heart was always broken, which I think that happens to all of us. Even if we go there willingly, so part of our heart is already divided, and one piece is in the United States and one piece is still in Mexico. And I always wanted to come back. And when my son finally went to the university, then I felt like this is my time. And I was able to come back here to Mexico. And a lot of people will tell me, like, is your romance with the idea of going back to Mexico is already over? Have you started seeing the reality of what it's like to live in Mexico? And yeah, sometimes living in Mexico is not the easiest thing, but my romance has lasted 7 years and it's not over. And I don't think it will be, because there are a lot of things here that I love, but also a lot of things that I can do. I'm feeling very close to families and children here, and I'm still doing the work that I love. So it is fine. I'm fine coming here. And if you come back, do you ever imagine that will be sometime soon, or how do you see yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you're fortunate because you're from Jalapa, which is like one of the most beautiful places in Mexico.
It is beautiful.
I'm not from a beautiful place. Iguala is a pretty ugly place to be from, and very poor, extremely poor. So I really struggle like emotionally when I go back to Mexico because first of all, I suffer from survivor's guilt. Every time I go to Iguala and I see all the Igualtecos living in like, all this poverty, and I feel guilty because I can leave. I'm not stuck there. So I feel guilty about that. I also feel guilty about like coming back to Mexico with dollars in my pocket and being able to afford luxuries that people there cannot,
Yes.
right? So then there's all this guilt about that. I also feel a lot of outrage because I just feel, like Mexicans are really, really hardworking.
Yes.
But there's so few opportunities in Mexico, and for a lot of people, when you're born into poverty, you die in poverty. There's just no way to get out. And I get really frustrated because, like, for example, with my cousins in Mexico, I have sent them all to school. Okay. I sent my cousin Diana to beauty school, and I paid all this money for her to get her training, cutting hair, doing nails, all of that.
Yeah.
And then when she graduated from beauty school, she went looking for a job, and they wanted to pay her $80 a day. That's $4, right? Like $4 or $5 a day.
80
And
pesos.
80 pesos a day, which is $4 or $5. And I said, just stay home. I can send you $5 every day, And I just got so angry because she went through all this training for what, And then I sent my cousin Rolando to university. He just graduated with a degree, and there are no jobs. So now, you know what he does with his university graduate? He delivers water bottles from house to house. And I said, that's what I paid for? Like that, But he said there's no jobs, that if he even wants to have a chance at making anything of himself, he has to like go to Querétaro, for example, where he might be able to get a job. So this is what frustrates me. And that's why like I feel like as much as I fantasize about moving to Mexico, it breaks my heart. Like I don't know if I can tolerate that heartache. And I don't know how you do it, but maybe like where you live, like you don't experience that extreme like poverty, the way I see it when I go to Iguala.
I understand. I live in Jalapa. This is the capital of the state of Veracruz. And but even so, life is difficult here for a lot of people, for my neighbors. And one of the things that has helped me a lot is getting organized with other people, with my community, and also with other women, and then working together to do things that are gonna be beneficial for everybody, and also finding ways of taking care of each other. And I think that even though it's not the complete answer, is one thing that can help. So then when we are doing something for the people that we love, or even for just people that live close to us, even if they are not our relatives, getting organized and making community together is what is making a difference for me. Because yes, you are right, otherwise it's just infuriating to see how things happen here in Mexico. And also when you see the violence that happens, and that there is not people have the means, the power to do whatever they want. Some people do have the power and the money to do whatever they want without repercussions. Just having so much power over other people here is something that manifests very, very sharply. And that's one of the things that I don't know how to deal with it. But I guess part of being here is part of my own resistance.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering what's next for you in terms of, what you're working on. What can we expect from you next? What beautiful book are you gonna give us next?
Thank you. Well, I'm on that. I want to write a book about joy, about that strength that we create when we are together, about women, about girls. I want to write about that. And just like with my other books, I'm navigating there, kind of lost in a big sea of feelings and ideas. When I finish talking here with you, I'm gonna give it another chance to using my pencil and trying to come up with something that I know that eventually will become a book. But right now I'm at that stage where I'm just feeling lost. Yeah. And you say that you just finished writing a story. What is that? Can we hear about it?
Yeah, well, it took me 7 years.
Oh my
First of all, and it's 400 pages. So, yeah, when I got to 150,000 words, my editors was like, "Can you stop now? Can this be it?" I'm like, okay. But so I wrote a novel that's coming out in March about the Mexican American War.
Oh.
And I wanted to write about this war because it really infuriates me how here in the US it's a forgotten war, right? Like the Mexican American War is the war that the US cannot remember and Mexico cannot forget. And here we we have swept it under the rug. We spend weeks and weeks teaching about the Civil War, but our children don't grow up learning about the Mexican American War. And I feel that if we can talk about this moment in history, it would really help us to understand the complex relationship between Mexico and the US. And it would help us understand the controversy over the border, right? Over the Rio Grande.
Yes.
And also I felt like, as a Mexican immigrant child growing up in California, I think if I had known that the history and if I had known that California used to be Mexican lands, I wouldn't have felt like such a freaking foreigner, like an outsider. I wouldn't have felt so othered. And also, if I had known that Spanish was spoken here first before English, I wouldn't have been so ashamed about being a Spanish speaker. So that's what motivated me to write this novel. And yeah, so it's coming out in March, and I'm really happy about it.
Wow. I wanna tell you something before we move on with questions. I think it's almost time for questions. Sam is gonna be here soon, probably telling us more about some questions people had. But part of the inspiration also for this book, I told you that a lot of things came together to help me do it. And one of those things was that I saw you a while ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. We were together at one of these book fairs, and I don't think that you saw me because I had already presented, and then I walked around and there was a panel where you were speaking with, I don't remember his name, but it's I think his name
Alfredo Corchado.
No, it was Victor who wrote the letters to my father, I think, who is this journalist who was who came out of the closet as an illegal. Is that how he called it?
Oh, okay. Jose Antonio Vargas.
Okay, thank you, Vargas. I was thinking Victor because of the Vargas. Yes. So he came out as an undocumented immigrant, and you were there with him, and people ask you, all of you, like, what are those things that we can do now? Like, I'm here from the United States. I'm a white male person, what can I do to help with the crisis of the border and immigration? And you say something that stayed with me very strongly. You say the United States has created immigrants in our countries, and now they are chastising and punishing people for wanting to come into the United States. And you say that with such a rage and such a like so strongly, that really stayed with me, and it carried me as I was thinking about this, about how we live in this world where we try always to separate ourselves from the others without realizing rather how connected we are. How people who are immigrant is not because they are of their own creation, that we are also responsible for people needing to immigrate. So you were a big inspiration.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so glad I inspired you with my rage. I get so angry sometimes because we deny, like we try to deny how our actions, how our foreign policies, how our meddling in other countries, we create this displacement, right? So what I usually say is first we make immigrants and then we punish them for immigrating. Yes,
exactly.
So let's take some questions now. I want to make sure that we have enough time for questions for Gigi.
Thank you so much to both of you. Rage can be inspiring. It is true. This was such a lovely conversation to listen to, and thank you, Gigi, for reading as well. That was so lovely. If you've got questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can also drop them in the Q&A box, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen. We've got a few minutes for questions, so if you do have questions, we'd love to get to them. I wanted to start off with a question, Gigi, about your illustration style. Could you tell us more about how you create the illustrations in your books, and specifically that there's you use different mediums to create this? Can you tell us about how you do that?
Yeah, well, it seems like every book is also a discovery when, like, how I'm gonna illustrate it. In the case of Bright Star, is a little similar to what I did for Dreamers. In Dreamers, I did my drawings. I put them. I did it by hand on my table, and I did the same for Bright Star. And then in order to paint those drawings, I took a lot of photographs, and I put those photographs, those images inside of my computer, and it's almost as if I had a jar with color and texture, and I'm dipping my pen in there, and then I paint digitally with those textures and colors. And Bright Star was very similar. And what happens to me when I'm working that way is that I want those colors to be significant. I want them to be part of the story, or something that relates to the story. And for Bright Star, I painted some papers with colors, I scanned them, put them inside of my computer. But I also took photographs. And when I went to the border, I visited the Sonoran Desert. And there I took pictures of things that I found and used them to paint Bright Star. Two of them, like more that are more easy to identify in the book, is that I went to a place where I saw a border fence. And I took pictures of that fence, of the material, the metal, and then I was also at a crossing point. So it was an immigration point, and there was also a structure on a wall, and I took picture of the concrete in that area, and I used those photographs to paint the concrete and metal wall that you see in the book. The other picture that was very important for me was that I went to an immigrant shelter in Mexico, in the part of Mexico. And there were a couple of families only. Most everybody was adults who were waiting to be called so that then to see if immigration will review their case and hopefully let them into the United States. But there was a mother with a baby girl, and she told me their story, how they were escaping domestic violence. And I asked if I could put, if I could take a picture of them. And one of the pictures that I took was, I took the arm of the baby and I photographed the arm of the baby. And that image, I put it inside of my computer and created the color and the texture that I use for painting the children that are inside of the story. And pretty much like that, besides also doing the embroidery and the weaving of the blanket, I wanted it to have that feeling of something that was handmade, that was made for children. I really wanted to offer them something that felt soft, that was made with love, that was like the things that our grandmothers or mothers or also parents, why not, fathers, will create for us, so that we knew that we were not alone, so that children knew that they are not alone either.
Thank you so much. And if you haven't looked at Bright Star and at the illustrations in this book and in Dreamers, which is the previous book by Yuyi Morales, take a look. They are really incredible collage-like illustrations, and you'll be able to see the style that Gigi's describing there. It is amazing. We have a question that was something that I was thinking about earlier as well. In the acknowledgements at the back of the book, you talk about the first thing that you say. You have a little piece about why you wrote this book. And the first thing that you say is, I wrote this book because you and I are connected. And I wanted to know a little bit more about that. And somebody else asked, is it possible to break with the idea of being the product of a single story, do you think? Is it possible that we are more than immigrants, but that we're complex people made of different stories and experiences? I thought those were kind of related. And I wondered if you could talk about that we're all interconnected. Do you think that's possible to kind of look at this way?
Yeah, I think that we can see it also like kind of like from a magical way, which is very real too, which is that the energy that created us is all the same energy, and then we were just put, in different forms. But beyond that, in reality, what happens to one of us will always affect what happens to others. And sometimes I get very frustrated feeling that a lot of what we are taught as we are growing up, and especially if you are growing up in the United States, is that you have to look for yourself, that our work has to speak so that we can take care of ourselves and the people that are close to us, maybe our children. And then when we think about other children, other people's children in another country, in another part of the world, then it doesn't feel like we have as much responsibility with them, when in fact, a lot of those children are gonna be the citizens that are gonna be working with us, maybe are gonna be our students, but eventually they are gonna be the teachers of, even in the United States, or the people that are our neighbors. And to feel that disconnection, it really does a disservice to what we can do when we really put our energy on doing things together and doing them for all of us. And when I wrote that part of that I wrote that book, because I believe that we are all connected, I had also watched this video, and you might have seen it too. I don't remember the name of the speaker right now, but this is this woman who is doing research about trees and forests. And she explains that in the roots of trees, there are these fungus. There are, I don't remember how they call them. It's micro, I'm just not remembering the word correctly, but it's a mushroom, it's a fungus. They are very small, sometimes we don't see them. And what they do is that they have connections. They create like almost like in our brain, the synaptic connections. They are made so that then they can communicate with other trees to let them know when maybe there are some nutrients that are not being in this area, are not happening, and they call for those nutrients to come from other places. So, and what this woman is trying to show is whether, rather than us being in competition or that trees being in competition, in fact, they are working in collaboration so that we can all survive, we can all live. And I do believe that we as humans, we also have something probably in our roots or somewhere here that we don't see them, but that makes us all connected. And when something happens to Reyna or happens to you, Sam, or a child in the borderlands or in another place where he is being or she is being hurt, it will affect us as well. I do believe in that connection. So if I want to take care of myself, I need to be taking care also of others, including animals, including plants, and including our environment, our territory.
Thank you. So it's been a really scary time for adults as well, but definitely for kids, kids caught up in the immigration crisis, kids navigating the global pandemic, and here in Vermont, we're also going to be probably accepting some refugees from Afghanistan in coming months. So lots of scary things have been happening to kids all over the world. And one question was, how do you think we should, as non-family members, just as community members, as people encountering kids who have been through something really scary, do you have anything that you think kids should hear from adults in the community and from just people around?
They can do, of course. When I started writing this book, it was because I was looking for those answers too, right? What do we do? How do we speak to children? How do we show them that they are gonna be fine? Or at least that we are gonna do whatever we can so that they will be okay. And what I realized is that there is no one answer. There is no one thing that we can do. Instead, there are many, many things that we are gonna have to do to create some well-being, some space where children are gonna be okay. And right now I'm gonna go back a little bit in time and in books to Dreamers, because with Dreamers, I was also trying to make a point that in regards especially to children that come from other places, from other countries, and immigrate into places like the United States, which is that when we come to the United States, we are usually told that we should be grateful, that we are lucky, that we finally made it, as if arriving to the United States was the end of our story. And now finally our story of success and happiness begins. And it's not like that. Arriving to the United States is just the beginning of a journey where we usually tell children that now they have the opportunity to grow up and be whatever they want to be, and now how lucky they are. We not only to children, but we also say that to adults. And in Dreamers, I wanted to make sure that we are not just counting on the transformation of children so that they can become great United States citizens. What I really believe is that especially children, they are already perfect. If anything, we should be grateful that they are bringing their perfection close to us. We don't need them to change. We don't need them to speak a different language. We don't need them to look more like us. We don't need any of that from them. We don't need to transform them, because the only thing that we can do for them, rather than change them, is to make sure that the place to where they arrive is a place that is gonna honor them. It's a place that is gonna receive them and is gonna be grateful for all the things that they bring, for all the things that they already are. They don't need to come to the United States so that they can become fruitful and good people or any of those things. They are already great, awesome, perfect. And if we can receive children in our lives, realizing that, knowing that, acknowledging that, I think we will at least have taken a right step there.
Thank you. That, I think the kids are going to save us. So thank you for putting that so well. And we had a great comment down here in the chat, in the Q&A, that said, tonight, both of you just got 2 new readers and fans, my 9-year-old and myself. Thank you for being so inspiring. And I will echo that. Thanks to both of you. We are coming to the end of our time tonight, and it just flew by. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us. Tonight, we've been talking about Bright Star. It is the new book by Yuyi Morales. It is out now. It is out in English as Bright Star. It's also available as Lucero in the Spanish language version. As of sometime today, we had both of those. I think we might have just sold out of the Spanish version this afternoon, but we will be getting more in. So if you would like to order copies of those books from the Norwich Bookstore, there are links in the chat. You can also search on our website. We'd be delighted to send you copies of these or other books by Yuyi Morales. They are all beautiful. They are all a little bit different. And we definitely are big fans here. And I also dropped a link earlier in the chat to pre-order the new Reyna Grande novel. It is called A Ballad of Love and Glory. It's coming out in March of 22. I just was looking at the page count. It's a big honking historical epic. I'm excited. I'm gonna want to pick up a copy of that, and I hope some of you will as well. So there's a link in the chat to pre-order that as well. Thank you so much to both of you for taking time out of your evening to talk with us here and to join us virtually in the Norwich Bookstore. And I hope that someday we'll be able to host both of you here in the Upper Valley in person. Yuyi Morales, Reyna Grande, thank you so much.
Gracias, gracias.
Gracias, Gigi. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you out there, wherever you're joining us from tonight. We are grateful that you're part of our community. We're all in this together, and wherever you are, do good work, read good books, be safe. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.